So we have a quick summary which will be given to us by Monika Werli and Andri Flütsch, and then right afterwards we jump back into the discussion. So be patient with us for a few minutes. Thank you.
So, hello everyone. We are the young scientists from the Swiss Study Foundation, and we wanted to thank the Academia Engelberg for giving us the opportunity to share our thoughts with you and being the voice of the young generation for today. In this replique, we will give you some inputs and some thoughts and questions that came up during the conference.
So here you see the presentations of today. We have listened to several different aspects of food security, including a finance topic, a research topic, as well as a possible solution. And based on this, we will elaborate on some aspects, but we will not give you a summary. We will more raise our concerns or have a further discussion on some aspects. First, we want to refer to the talk of Mrs. Anderson. I'm glad you're still here. So for me, this was a very illustrative example of how specific aspects of food security touches several sectors like healthcare or agriculture and society. And I think this applies to several topics within food security. And here at this point, I want to quote Per Pinstrup Andersen, who is also a winner of the World Food Prize. He said, "There are few incentives in government for multidisciplinary problem solving. The economy is set up around silos and people are loyal to their silos. Agriculture and health sector are largely disconnected in their priorities, policy and analysis." So this quote leads us to the question whether multi-sectorial and multidisciplinary approaches are possible, and we can also ask at what scale we want to implement them. Maybe we can discuss this later. And then secondly, I want to pick up another point which has already been risen before. This is funding of agricultural research. So there is an increasing number of privately funded research projects in agriculture due to mainly biotechnological advances as well as globalization of markets. So, and I ask myself whether this is problematic, because food security is a problem affecting governments, so why do we just hand it over to private? And we have seen in the EU that this whole development has led to an adverse impact on productivity growth rate. And it has also arguably contributed to high commodity prices, which we have observed in recent years. So we wonder if there is not a bias in research topics, if this is mainly privately funded. I think we should allow experts and the public take part in the decision-making process of research topics and not just let the profit-driven companies decide this. Then I would like to go over to the talk given by Mr. Herren. First, I would like to mention that for me this is really a remarkable achievement, and we can discuss his methods, but I think this is really a source of inspiration because he has really acted, he has done something. And one question here is, we wonder how far we can go with the solution. So, and also the relation to other solutions. So if we should maybe also include technology a bit more, or what is the scope of, for example, biological pest control? I mean, there have been so many attempts, but only few successful ones. Another aspect he has mentioned in his talk is the prices of the food. He said the products are not paid properly. So should we rather suggest a more equal society, or can we also introduce maybe a different pricing system? And then finally to the Sustainable Development Goals. So I really appreciate that they're universal and this is a huge achievement. But with the Millennium Development Goals, we've seen that a significant number of countries has not managed to fulfill them. Normally, if you set goals, you're supposed to achieve them, I guess. So maybe for the Sustainable Development Goals, will there be any penalties for countries which do not achieve them? Now I will hand over to Monica.
Yeah. Next one is GMO and synthetic biology. I wanted to bring up these topics because during the whole conference they were slightly touched but never really discussed, and I think that it's perfect because the discussion is difficult due to the very opposite opinions there are. But I still think that we can't ignore that the genetically modified organisms are part of our world of food security. So even if GMO agriculture is not allowed in Switzerland, but we still need to keep it in mind if we want to stay up to date with the world. I also wanted to talk about politics and lobbying because, yeah, I link this to the talk about the manipulation of the market. It was mentioned there, to be able to change the market, one has to be big. There was the example with the manipulators. I wanted to kind of bring up the question that in the whole talk the manipulators were just like fixed, but I think they can be a variable in this topic as well. So what I'm asking myself is if there can't be any restrictions for growing in the market, and I think it's the same with politics. That one has to be big to be able to change something. So what about thinking about restrictions in there as well? Because now it's the question who decides, and those who decide are the ones that are strong and big right now. And the last one is industrial implementation of the scientific research outcomes. There's a lot of scientific research ongoing, and they really get great results. But now I think we have to think about the implementation of these results as well, because we have goals, we set ourselves goals in food safety, and I think we should learn about what we get from the research to put in large scale. Yeah, I wanted to end our replique with a quote by Jules Verne that says, "Anything one man can imagine, other men can make real." So right now we are really talking about these topics a lot, but I think if we are talking about them and if we can imagine some solution, we should not only talk about them but act as well. So thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. There's a reason that the Academia Engelberg actually invites young people to this, because we are currently creating the future they will have to live in. We are partly responsible for, let's say, quote, the mess we are currently in. And if we could just get back that slide and maybe even keep it there for the rest of the discussion, I think it would be a good reminder, because I think all the young scientists in this room touched upon the points which are important to them, and I think it's one of our obligations that maybe we also address them in our future work. And I know they worked all very hard. You are the two representatives for the whole group, also with the posters. You deserve a big applause. And for everybody else in the group, you also get your little present. Okay, now we can turn the lights on again. And as I said, all the presenters are still in the room, and we still have a few minutes left for discussion. And I know there were hands up earlier, and maybe I would like to continue with those hands. And Gisem, you were the first one. Do you want to get back to your reply, which we didn't have time beforehand?
Yeah, it was my question to Dr. Hearn that he didn't answer. And that is, why do the farmers do what they do? Because, as I said, they're economists, they need to feed their family, they have children that they want to educate, and therefore they grow what is most economical to them and what gives them the greatest return. So I would appreciate if you actually could put that into the framework of everything is connected to everything. Where's the farmer in there?
But the farmer in this case is actually in the middle. I mean, we're looking at this from the farmer's perspective, okay? So the farmer has to survive. Actually, he should thrive, not just survive, because that's the wrong thing to begin with, just to think that they have to have enough prices to manage. Why can they not thrive like everyone else in society who works hard? So let's now look at the farmer there. Now, if they adopt these technologies, I mean, if you go back to maybe not Green Revolution varieties, but even to GMOs, but you have seen, what are the choices? The farmer have less and less choices, actually, to say they want something else. Like this in the US, in places where the big adoption has happened, and that's actually in industrial agriculture, where the whole economics are skewed to begin with. There wouldn't be anybody growing maize in America if it was subsidized one way or another. And so that's the one skewed, the system is already skewed from day one. We also know that a lot of the adoption of those GMOs is due to the food is not used for food or the crops, but they're used in industrial processes, biofuels also. So that's what, okay, maybe again in Brazil it's a bit different, but not so much. Argentina soybeans are used partly biodiesel, but also for animal feed. So you can see that the adoption is not really at the smallholder farmer to begin with, because they don't want those if they have a choice. They rather keep their own seeds. So what you need to work in is actually to work from the agronomy side of things, give them a choice, first thing with the choices, and then let them work better with their soil, increase soil fertility. The fact that we have shown, and many others have done so, there's a lot of peer-reviewed publications, that if you increase soil fertility, you can double, treble the production in Africa without a lot of inputs, without any of those even hybrid seeds. So what more do you want? If you want a sustainable system which is localized, where you have the best seed for the best place. Not what we saw here on the graph, where you have 3 or 4 varieties left for an area like the United States. So to me, it looks like we have to really start to think about the farmer, him or herself, and see what is to him or her benefit in the end. And it is not the industrial system.
Keep it short because we have another statement then afterwards in the back of the room.
Let me just quickly go back to the example that I mentioned in India, which is perhaps the best documented. Over a 15-year period, farmers had the choice of using their varieties that they were growing, which were very diverse, versus the new varieties that came on the markets. And the farmers made a choice. Okay? Yeah. They took the new varieties for a reason. Not because they wanted to keep their old seeds, because they wanted to have a better income. Okay? And that is a choice that the farmer makes. And I think that is a choice that we have actually to support and also to respect. I mean, we cannot drive the farmer back into poverty by asking him, now grow your old varieties again. Okay? So we have to change our thinking as well. And that is, what can we do to support the farmer so that the farmer makes the right choices? Okay? And that requires that we do quite a bit of research and also perhaps start to think about what we have to do to our current varieties to provide incentives to the farmers to grow perhaps these varieties or improve varieties that we as scientists and breeders have to develop.
Okay, I'm not saying that we should not improve the varieties. We know that through improved varieties you can have not only better yields, you have better quality, which is also important. You may get resistances. So, I mean, that's all. But, again, it can be done on a much smaller scale. So that whatever new varieties come out, they are locally adapted. They actually selected in the environment where they will grow. That makes a lot of sense. Okay, so, but I don't think it makes sense to have only a few people producing a gazillion tons of seeds, which then are sort of average. They work, but actually if you had a system which is more decentralized for breeding with farmers, because then they can select what they like best, because it's also, food is also cultural. I don't think everybody wants to have the same taste of rice, for example. We know that. There's many different people who want different things. So why not promoting the diversity? And if you want to promote this diversity, I think some of the past experience we had with large operations are going in the wrong direction. And think about India. I mean, if you bring the example of India, well, there's other things we can say. India overproduces food today, has the highest children under malnourishment. So it didn't solve the social. So you may have produced more food. Did you solve the other problems? No, you didn't. You actually put people out of business. You know, the farms grew in many places, right? It's documented. So now we create another problem. Are these numbers not right?
I think maybe.
Okay.
Stop, because we have a last statement at the back of the room, because he's waiting for quite some time. And I would like to take it because we also have to close at one point. Sorry. Yes,
Sorry
please,
for interfering. Dr. Aaron, I like your talk very much, and I remember.
Oh, okay.
But I definitely don't agree to some parts of it, and especially your epistemological premises. So if you were talking about diversity and you were making very strong biodiversity, you were very strong health, and you emphasized that we have to think in systems and that we have complex system, at least complicated system. Then we have the problem that you do not know whether your actions and predictions will end up with what? Because if it is a complex system, it's not predictable. I give you an example. We do not have a precise definition and concept what health is. There's no reference points for health. Secondly, we do not know whether biodiversity is automatically good, because we have no concept of biodiversity. We even do not know at what level look at biodiversity. Is it on processes? Is it on individuals? Is it on the genetic level? Is it on the animal or on the plant level? And we do not know the time span to look at. You talked about the last 50 years, so that would be a linear development. If I look at the work of Sepkovsky, 1992 or 96, I think, then he looked for the last 5 million years, and that changes the picture completely. So if we make this strong, and I agree that we have to do a lot of research in this respect, but if we take this really serious, then we should be a little bit more careful with the buzzwords of diversity, health, and so on and so on.
Maybe a short and quick reply, because in the interest of time.
We know quite a bit already. Just in pest management, we know that there are a lot of natural enemies out there, which actually, if they are promoted, they will provide an ecosystem service to the farmers. If you spray too much, get rid of it, you have a problem. On the cassava mealybug, it's a very simple. In some places, they still spray cassava today because of a grasshopper. It takes 2 or 3 months, there's an infestation of mealybug back again, which then disappears when they stop spraying. So we know that diversity, which is there, is actually very useful. So we have some. But now there's a huge effort being made right now, actually to quantify and to monetize also, which is not always right, because certain things should not be monetized, but at least to quantify the value of ecosystem services. And that's a lot in there is actually our biodiversity, which is part of that ecosystem. And so just think about the TEEB. There's going to be a TEEB agriculture right now, the economics of environment and ecosystem services. So that's something, of an ecosystem and biodiversity. So that's ongoing because people realize there is something there. But we have some good hints already, and I think we need to build on this. I'm not saying that we know everything. Actually, that's why I said we need more research exactly in those systems to understand how they connect. Sorry.
Thank you very much. I unfortunately have to cut it short here. I also apologize that I structured the discussion a little bit, but I know it's interesting, but we have limited time. We meet at 5:30 either at the train station where a bus is waiting to take us to our dinner, or at the base or valet station of the cable car, and that will also give you the opportunity to continue these discussions that we now have to cut short. Thank you very much for coming, and see you tomorrow.